Writing a logline or improving your elevator pitch. My name is Casselman. I am a screenwriter and film producer, and so I'll just say next.
Okay.
I'm a screenwriter and film producer, and probably about 10 years ago, I went to a class reunion, and Heidi Hanks showed up. Now that means nothing to you people, but to me, Heidi Hanks was the girl I had a crush on throughout junior high and high school. And we talked to each other, and she mentioned, "Oh, I heard you're involved in film." And I was like, "Yeah, I had a screenplay I was trying to raise money for at the time." And she goes, "Oh, what's your film about?" So I was like, "Awesome." So I started to tell her my film, and after a little while, her face did this. She was being nice, but she was doing this. And so what I realized is that I sucked at the elevator pitch. And so I took it upon myself to learn how to do the elevator pitch. And this was years in the making, getting this together. So I hope to pass along some information to you so that you don't have to take as long as I did in learning how to do this correctly. Next. Okay. Why do writers need to pitch? Can you see that okay? Okay. We need to pitch so we can convey our ideas clearly and succinctly. We need to stand out in a very competitive marketplace, meaning we have to get certain people interested in what we're writing, be it a screenplay or a novel, comic book script, whatever we're writing. We have to have our manuscripts looked at by the right people, meaning the decision makers. We want to sell our writing. Who here wants to sell their writing? All right. And we want to have a career as a writer. This all is centered around the elevator pitch. Next. So this is what agents, editors, producers, publishing houses, distribution companies, this is what they're looking for. They're looking for high concept material. Now, for years, I thought when somebody said high concept, I thought they meant something like Star Wars, or the Avengers, or in book terms, something like The Lord of the Rings, or Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series. And that's true to a point, but high concept, in its pure form, it doesn't mean big and epic and expensive. It means stories that all of us can relate to on some tangible and emotional level. Regardless of what you're writing, regardless of where you're trying to go as an author or a writer, this is where you're trying to, this is what, regardless of the genre, this is what you're trying to do. You're trying to tell a story that's relatable. You're trying to tell a story that regardless of the time period or the setting, or whether or not there's action and explosions and death and destruction, you're trying to write characters that we can all relate to. Because that's what pulls us into the story. We start to care about the characters. We start to feel happy for them. We start to feel nervous for them. We start to feel scared for them. We're invested in the characters. Who's here has watched a movie that may have tons of elements of action, excitement, fantasy, science fiction, but you just didn't care about the characters? I think we've all experienced that. Have you gone back and watched that movie again? why do we care about, why do so many people love Star Wars? Is it because of the Force? Is it the spaceships? Why do we care about Star Wars? Those of us who care about Star Wars. Was there an answer over here?
Han Solo.
Han Solo, okay?
I care about what happens to the characters.
You care about the characters. You care about Luke and Leia and Han and Chewie and the robots. Probably not Jar Jar. No, you care about Jar Jar. So that's going to be your focus for your pitch or your logline. Next one. Okay, so where does a logline begin? What's your screenplay about? Tell me about your novel. Who here has been asked that question once they find out you're a writer? Okay. So as you continue to write, regardless of where you are, if you are working on something and somebody finds that out, 99% of the time they're going to ask this question. So this is a great opportunity for you to be ready for this question. Next one. So what is a logline? A logline is a 1 or 2 sentence description of the overall idea of the story that you want to convey to your audience. No more than 2 sentences. And they have to be proper sentences. They cannot be run-on sentences that go on for a paragraph or 2. Okay? A proper logline, now this is the importance of having that elevator pitch or that logline ready to go as soon as you're asked that question. Tell me about what you're writing, or tell me about your story. A proper logline can lead to a conversation about your story where more plot or story detail can be discussed. The reason why you get log lines that go on for a paragraph, even though it's 2 sentences, is because the person writing the log line wants to put what they feel is every single important element into their log line. And that's just impossible. At that point, you're writing a summary or a synopsis. Okay? So this is what the logline gives you an opportunity. In Hollywood, they have what they call pitch sessions. Does everyone know what a pitch session is? Okay, a pitch session is where you go into a producer or a studio executive's office, and I'm sure that you've probably had a similar experience with editors and publishing houses. Are they doing that here this weekend? Okay. So you go in and you sit down and you have 10, 15 minutes. You're probably one of a dozen or more people, writers, that they're going to see in the course of that day. You have 10 to 15 minutes. So you start off with your logline or your elevator pitch. And then if you capture their attention, if it's good enough that you capture their attention, they're going to start asking questions. And your 10 or 15 minutes is going to be filled with a question and answer session between you and the person you're talking to about your story, and you're giving yourself every opportunity at that point to have them say, yes, let me look at it. Next one. Okay, so we're going to go through some log lines. We'll read through. These are movies that some of you have seen, maybe some of you haven't. These are Hollywood films. Yell out if you know the name of this film. Logline number 1. The extraordinary story of a thoroughbred racehorse, from his humble beginnings as an underfed workhorse to his unlikely rise and triumphant victory over the Triple Crown winner War Admiral.
Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan. Johnny Worthen, you are a film god. Warhorse, no. Good guess. Seabiscuit. Yes. Okay. Okay, that's 1 sentence. Is it a proper sentence? It is. It's a little long. They probably could have split it into 2 sentences, but it is a proper sentence. It's not a run-on. Okay, next one. Logline number 2. A 17th century tale of adventure on the Caribbean Sea where the roguish yet charming Captain Jack Sparrow joins forces with a young blacksmith in a gallant attempt to rescue the governor of England's daughter and reclaim his ship. What do you mean? No words? Alright. Notice they put the name of the protagonist in there. Although on the first one and some of the other ones, they're not going to name the protagonist. That's your decision as the author of the logline. Next one. Number 3. When a Roman general is betrayed and his family murdered by a corrupt prince, he comes to Rome as a gladiator to seek his revenge. Gladiator. The name of the movie's in the logline! Alright. Next one. Number 4, an older man is forced to deal with an ambiguous future after he enters retirement and his wife passes away. Period. Okay, this is one that has 2. Ultimately, he finds hope as he comes to terms with his daughter's marriage and his own life. Good guess. Same target audience. I'll give you a hint. Jack Nicholson's in it.
About Schmidt.
About Schmidt. Very good. Okay. All right. Now let's pause here a second. This is something that most of you could not either haven't seen the movie or could not figure it out. Is this a good logline? Do you see that and say, "Hey, I'd like to see that movie"?
Sounds boring.
Sounds boring. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Next one. Number 5, a journey of self-discovery by a brilliant mathematician. Once he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, he eventually triumphs over tragedy and receives the Nobel Prize. Flubber. Yes! And we didn't even mention Flubber in it. Paper Mind. Okay, next one. Number 6, a police chief with a phobia for open water battles a gigantic shark with an appetite for swimmers and boat captains in spite of a greedy town council who demands that the beach stay open. Just the first one. But maybe it applies to all the sequels too. Alright, number 7, next one. A Parisian rat teams up with a man with no talent to battle convention and the critics that everyone can cook and open their own restaurant. Next one. Number 8. A lawyer who loses his ability to lie for 24 hours clashes with his ex-wife for the affection of their son and the healing of their family. Liar, liar. Everyone seen that? Okay. Next one. Twilla's family has exactly 3 traditional values. Marry a Greek boy, have Greek babies, and treat everyone. Period. When she falls in love with a sweet, waspy guy, Twilla's struggles to get her family to accept her fiancé while she comes to terms with her own heritage. And what about that one? Does that one seem more interesting?
I like the 3 traditional values.
Okay.
I like their sense of character and sense of.
Okay.
This is the first one that really seems to have an interesting voice. A lot of the others are just kind of broad. So
the other ones were a lot more generic.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one. A young man and woman from different social classes fall in love aboard an ill-fated voyage at sea. This is a very short logline for a very long movie. But did they capture the heart of the story? Is it what Titanic is essentially about? There's no mention of, the protagonist should have been able to climb up on the piece of debris floating in the ocean too. There's no mention of a stupid granddaughter. Is that you, Nana? Nana travels with pictures of herself in that same period of her life. Okay? So, this gives you a sense of what to look for when you're writing your logline. Be brief, be succinct, but do your very best to give it a voice. Do your very best to put a spin on it that will capture people's attention. Because if you have a dry, bland logline, even if it's only 1 to 2 sentences long, is the conversation going to be a lot shorter? Possibly. Next one. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about how not to write your logline. You don't want to sound like a snake oil salesman by telling someone it's like Die Hard on a bus. It's like The Firm meets The Fugitive. There was a time in Hollywood where that was a pitch. No more. That's an archaic way of pitching. It's a lazy approach to pitching. However, if you told me that your script or novel was about a man who was bitten by a genetically altered spider and soon discovers that he has unusual powers and the strength and agility of a spider, well, now I'm interested. What movie is that? Which one? All of them! Okay, next one. Other things to avoid when writing a logline. The writer confuses loglines with taglines. What's a tagline?
Kind of a catchy phrase.
Catchy phrase. Taglines are what you see on the movie posters.
Space, no one can hear you scream.
Yes, that's one of the most famous ones from the first Alien movie. So do not make your logline a tagline, because in space, no one can hear you scream. If you have no idea what it's talking about, what are you thinking? You're thinking, okay, either somebody's been tossed out of a spaceship, or maybe there's a scary story being told in space, which Alien was. It was basically a monster movie on a spaceship, but the tagline doesn't tell you anything. The writer thinks cliché stands in for story. Think of something that could be cliché that someone could mistakenly put in their logline. Yes.
Boy meets girl.
Boy meets girl.
I think
And?
the finds redemption in volleyball.
Right.
That seems really cliche.
Yeah. In the future, one man stands alone against the forces of evil.
In a world.
I tried to do in a world. I tried to do that in movie announcer voice. Jesse, hand over.
Just in a world where.
In a world where. Okay. The writer asks questions in his or her logline. Bob finds out he has cancer that turns his life upside down. Will Bob live or die? A lot of people think that that's going to create a lot of interest in their story. It doesn't. The writer goes on and on and on. We discussed run-on sentences. The writer forgets a sense of tone, time, or place. So that's where you'll give it your voice. The writer forgets the 3 C's: clarity, character, and conflict. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Any questions on this? Okay, next one. So the elements of a logline, fundamentally a good logline will be 1 to 2 sentences. We talked about that. It will include 5 elements. The subject of the sentence will describe, number 1, an imperfect but passionate and active protagonist. The verb will depict, number 2, the battle and the direct object, the battle or conflict. And the direct object will describe, number 3, an insurmountable antagonist who tries to stop the protagonist from reaching, number 4, a physical goal on account of, number 5, the stakes if the goal is not reached. Yes?
Could you keep that up for some time?
Yes?
None of those taglines he gave us had all of them.
Okay. And some of the taglines did not resonate with me. And the interesting thing about those taglines, I didn't write them. I got them from the source. So you can see that, you know, writers of all levels, a logline is sometimes something they need to work on. Now here you have 5 elements, and so your job is going to be making sure all these elements are in the logline in one form or another, in 1 or 2 sentences. It can be done. Has everyone got this information? Yeah.
Are you going to have this available, this presentation available somewhere?
Please.
If you want to give me your email, I can email it to you. You got it? You got that. Our panel's 50 minutes here. Okay, next one. Okay, a good logline answers 4 fundamental questions. Who is your main character? You can name the character, or you can just describe them. Okay? The Big Fat Greek Wedding and Pirates of the Caribbean loglines named the protagonist. The other ones did not. Okay? That's your decision. What is he or she trying to accomplish? What is the goal? Who is trying to stop him or her? Who is the antagonist? Is the antagonist always a person? No, an antagonist can be cancer. An antagonist can be nature. An antagonist can be a sinking ship. What are some other non-human antagonists?
Disease.
What was that?
Disease.
Can be a disease or a plague. Very good.
It could also be a youth. You can be the protagonist in cancer.
Yes. Who here has watched Breaking Bad? There's a lot of people who have a hard time with that series and give up on it within the first season or 2 because what that series is, it's a story where the antagonist and the protagonist are the same person. So the person whose journey you go on is a complete a-hole. It becomes a bigger one as the story progresses. And that's where people have a hard time with the series. Any others?
Just the law.
Okay. Society, cultural norms. A movie I love called Bend It Like Beckham. It's about a girl who's raised in an Indian household in England who wants to play soccer. Her parents are very traditional conservatives. And so her antagonists aren't really her parents, it's the cultural norms of the society she's grown up with. Okay, next one. Okay, a logline must also include the elements to make it marketable. You need to be clear and specific on what type of story you're telling. You need to have genre. You need to have setting. You need to have a hook. You need to have emotional context. You need to have heartfelt passion and visceral action. It's asking for a lot to do in 1 or 2 sentences, isn't it? But it is possible. And this is where the work comes in. And this is where hopefully this process I'm giving to people will help. Okay, next one. Okay. Your logline should be anchored by an action verb. I have a variety of action verbs up here, but it's not exclusive to what's up here. This is just to give you an idea. This is to give you a little bit of an understanding of what the logline is looking for. So we have struggle, battle, contends, wrestles, grapples, scuffles, fights, wages, war, jousts, duels, spars, scraps, poses, takes on, clashes, quarrels, feuds, or crusades. Why do we need verbs of this nature?
They're not boring.
They're not boring. What does every story have? What does every story need?
Conflict.
It needs conflict. All of these action verbs are related to conflict. I run a screenwriters group in Salt Lake. I have for the past 9 years. And I'll tell you, I have seen a number of scripts come through that are written very well, that have interesting characters, that are very interesting and detail-oriented settings. The writer did their homework in so many different regards, but they forgot one thing. Conflict. And the scripts are boring to read. Despite all the admirable things about it, they're boring to read. Because regardless of the genre, regardless of the story, there needs to be conflict. For the audience to become engaged and to care about the characters or be nervous about them or wonder what's going to happen to them and so forth. Okay, next one. Does everyone have this? Okay, next one. Okay. So this brings us to the structure of a logline. Now take all those elements and everything we've talked about and put them into a compelling 1 to 2 sentence in this order. Protagonist, verb, antagonist, goal, stakes. Okay? Now this is the part where I asked, does everyone have something to write with? At this point of the panel, I want you to write down a logline for the story that's your work in progress, or something that you're preparing to write, or hope to start writing soon. All right, how'd we do? Is there anyone who's brave and would like to share it with the class? Yes, sir. Tell us your name.
Cody Casselman.
Cody, thank you.
A man questions his memories of literal monsters that destroyed his life and what it could mean for himself and the world if those memories are accurate.
Okay. Anyone want to comment? Oh, okay. What were you going to do next? Did you feel compelled? Did you think, oh, I'd like to read that, or I'd like to see it? Okay. Okay. Conflict and stakes. What did you intend for the conflict and stakes?
So I kind of just wanted that to be the next question.
Okay.
I referenced what it could mean for himself and the world if those memories are true.
Okay. So maybe in the revision, kind of put something in there that instead of referencing what it will be, maybe be more detailed and exact about what that would mean. Okay, go ahead. Tell us your name.
Melissa Owens.
Melissa, thank you.
Cody Turner is a scuba diving janitor who encounters a sentient sea monster and is determined to eradicate the human contamination from its being. His interaction with the creature on a psychic level gives him the ability to influence the being, but he's not convinced that humans deserve a savior.
Okay.
She's been working on that for a couple of days.
Did you come prepared? All right. No, that was good. Comment back here.
I was just a little worried that it might be a little wordy. Sorry.
Yeah.
Too many multi-syllable words.
Okay. So I think you got all the elements in there. You just need to kind of pare it down on the revision. All right. Anyone else? Yes, in the back. Tell us your name.
Jen.
Jen, thank you.
When the Emperor falls, his oldest daughter fights to claim the throne before her scheming stepbrother drives the Empire to ruin.
Okay. Johnny more than approves.
There's a second sentence, but it already feels too long.
Okay? Did she tell enough in that one sentence? Or was it missing anything?
Should I read the second?
Read the second sentence.
With the help of a veritable harem, she faces intrigue, magic, and danger to challenge tradition and win a future for not only herself but her female descendants as well.
Okay, the word harem caught my attention.
What was the rest of that?
Now, when you read what comes after harem, I kind of stopped.
With the help of a veritable harem, she faces intrigue, magic, and danger to challenge tradition and win a future for not only herself but her female descendants as well.
I'm confused what the word veritable was doing.
Yeah, I probably don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think your word choice kind of fits into the concise direction. Don't. And I know in a perfect world, people read a lot and have good vocabulary skills. Thank you. But the last thing you want to do in a pitch session, even if you're doing it with someone who works in the literary field, you don't want them feeling like they need to reach for a dictionary as you're giving them the pitch section. Because suddenly, if they're worried about, what does that word mean, or what does that word mean, what's happened to your pitch? You've lost them. They're instead of focusing on the story you're presenting, they're suddenly focusing on, what does that word mean? And they're pulling out their phone and going to dictionary.com. Yes.
I was just going to read mine.
Okay. Any other, before you read it, any other feedback on that one? Yes.
When it says that she has to face this, and this, I would just take that. I would just say, with the help of a harem, she's going to advocate women's rights, with however she worded it.
That's a good note. Don't worry about putting everything in. You have your central conflict, and there's a lot of parts to that central conflict. But if you can just kind of concisely say what the central conflict is, you don't need to put in all the parts of it.
I might disagree because I appreciated knowing that there's magic involved. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and magic is a good thing to include because you're telling them what? You're telling them genre. Okay, yes.
So it's just a related question. You don't want stuff that they're going to run for a dictionary. Would you lean for or against including a made-up word from your story? Something that's like world building.
I would leave it out.
Mm-hmm. Unless it's the main character's name.
Tell me your name.
Frank.
Frank, thank you.
Okay. A Casselman races against a spiritual tsunami to save a girl before the world is destroyed.
Okay.
What's the
That's very succinct. It's missing some information. What is it missing? Okay, you have the stakes in there.
Can you say spiritual?
Yeah.
Okay, that's. I can kind of guess what spiritually he's having kind of a storm in his life, right?
No, I need to change that.
Okay.
That'll be something I'll have to change.
Okay.
I think it's missing.
You put the stakes in. What's the conflict? We know he's going to save you. That's the stakes. And all of us who live on the earth, thank you for. but the conflict. I mean, the stakes are part of the engagement, but the conflict engages the audience before the stakes. Because going back to, the high concept is characters who are on a very relatable, emotional level. We need to care about the characters. Obviously, we're going to care about our Earth being destroyed, but we need to care about the characters first. Okay, we have time for one more. Yeah. What's your name?
I'm Clark, C.R. Robinson. Monica wants nothing more than to be an officer of the law like her father. But when her dormant power erupts, she must outmaneuver the law, criminals, and worse, or have her dreams drowned in pool of blood.
Interesting. Did that tell you everything you needed to know to want to know more? Johnny? Okay. Well done. It was very succinct. And I liked how you ended it with a pool of blood. Okay, we have time for one more. Yes. Tell me your name.
Michelle.
Michelle, thank you.
Abducted at 16 and forced feeding someone else. Cameron must fight to get the help she needs to escape, or Steve will for her this time.
Okay.
The setting, I'm missing the setting. I don't know if this is contemporary or.
Okay, good note. Anything else? Yeah.
You might want to leave out Steve, honestly.
Okay.
If you could refer to him as who he is rather than his
Or her captor.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve might bring up the question, well who's Steve? That's, All right, any other comments? Yeah.
No comments, I thought you were.
I think we're out of time, maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I hope this was helpful.